Welcome back to Middle Ground, where we navigate the complex issues of our time from every angle. I'm your host, Mike Middle. For those who joined us for our last spirited discussion, you'll be pleased to know we have our guests back in the studio for another important conversation. The world was stunned this week by the news that Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has been apprehended in a covert operation and is now in U.S. custody, awaiting trial on charges of narco-terrorism and corruption. It's a monumental event with seismic geopolitical implications. Here to help us dissect this are our returning guests. From the right, Johnny Conservative of FoxNews.com. Johnny, good to have you back.
Mike, it's a great day for justice. Glad to be here.
And from the left, political analyst and CNN.com contributor Lizzie Liberal. Lizzie, welcome.
Hi, Mike. It's certainly a day that will be remembered, though perhaps for different reasons.
Let's start with the central question that's dominating the debate: the legality of this action. Johnny, was this a legitimate act of international justice or an illegal violation of another nation's sovereignty?
It was absolutely legitimate. Let's be clear. Nicolás Maduro is not a legitimate president. He's a brutal dictator and a narco-trafficker who has destroyed his country and used it as a base to flood the world with illicit drugs. He was indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice.
Indicted by one country's justice system, Johnny, not the world's.
When a criminal poses a direct threat to our national security, we have every right to act. The concept of sovereign immunity doesn't apply to thugs and terrorists. We didn't abduct a president, we arrested a kingpin. This isn't without precedent. Look at Manuel Noriega in Panama. We went in, got him, and brought him to justice in Miami. This is the same principle. Justice was served.
Lizzie, how do you see the Noriega comparison and the overall legality?
The Noriega case itself was and remains highly controversial from an international law perspective. But more importantly, citing a past violation of law doesn't justify a new one. This action is a profound breach of the UN Charter, which explicitly prohibits the use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state.
Even when that state is run by a criminal enterprise?
Yes, Johnny. That's the entire point of international law. It's not an a la carte menu where we pick the rules we like. By unilaterally entering a sovereign nation and capturing its head of state, however despicable we may find him, the U.S. has appointed itself judge, jury, and executioner on the world stage. This sets an incredibly dangerous precedent. What's to stop Russia from doing the same to a leader in Eastern Europe they deem a terrorist? Or China in the South China Sea? This is the definition of anarchy.
That's a ridiculous false equivalency. We are acting to remove a documented narco-terrorist who is starving his own people. Comparing that to Russian or Chinese expansionism is absurd. The world is safer today because Maduro is in a jail cell. Sometimes you have to break the so-called rules to do what is right.
But who defines what is right? That's the problem. By ignoring the established legal frameworks like the International Criminal Court or UN-sanctioned actions, we weaken them for everyone. We've just told the world that might makes right and that our laws apply to everyone but ourselves.
That brings up another dimension, the geopolitical one. This didn't happen in a vacuum. Russia and China were two of Maduro's biggest international backers. Johnny, how does this action impact the global chess match with our adversaries?
It's a power move, Mike, and a necessary one. For too long, we've allowed Russia and China to prop up this anti-American narco state right in our own backyard. This sends a clear message. The Monroe Doctrine is alive and well. We will not tolerate hostile foreign powers meddling in the Western Hemisphere. They backed the wrong horse, they lost their investment, and they've been shown that American resolve is stronger than their desire to create chaos. This reestablishes a red line they'd be foolish to cross again.
Let's pivot from the legality of what happened to the consequences of what happens next. The deed is done. Lizzie, what do you foresee as the immediate and long-term fallout in Venezuela and across Latin America?
A red line? Johnny, you're talking like it's 1962. This isn't the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is a complex, multipolar world. What you call sending a message, I call a reckless provocation. We've just handed Moscow and Beijing a golden opportunity. They will frame this as another example of aggressive American unilateralism and use it to justify their own interventions elsewhere. They'll step in now as the supposed protectors of sovereignty against American aggression, deepening their military and economic ties throughout the region, and creating even more instability for us in the long run. I fear the consequences will be catastrophic. You don't just remove the head of a state, even a failing one, and expect a peaceful, democratic transition to blossom overnight.
That's just fear-mongering. They're already doing that. Their involvement was always about undermining U.S. interests. The difference is, now they've been dealt a public setback. Their puppet is gone. It shows the limits of their power. Strength respects strength. Showing weakness and endless deference to international norms that our enemies ignore is what truly invites aggression. It's a step in the right direction.
This isn't strength, it's arrogance. We've created a crisis and alienated potential allies in Latin America who are just as wary of Russian and Chinese influence as we are, but are now even more wary of American intervention. We've isolated ourselves and made it a choice between three competing imperial powers instead of building a coalition based on shared values and respect for the law. We've played checkers while they are playing chess. Is it? What you've just done is create a massive power vacuum. Maduro's inner circle, various military factions, and armed civilian groups are all going to scramble for control. This could easily ignite a multi-sided civil war, leading to bloodshed on a scale we haven't even seen yet. Furthermore, this action will be used as a rallying cry for anti-American sentiment across the entire hemisphere. We've just confirmed every suspicion about Yankee imperialism and made it infinitely harder for legitimate pro-democracy movements to succeed without being tainted as U.S. puppets.
Let's talk about the economic fallout. Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, yet its economy is in ruins. Johnny, what does Maduro's removal mean for the future of Venezuela's economy and the global energy market? Let's talk about the economic fallout. Venezuela sits on the world's largest oil reserves, yet its economy is in ruins. Johnny, what does Maduro's removal mean for the future of Venezuela's economy and the global energy market? Johnny, your take on the aftermath? You see this as a positive turning point. Why won't it devolve into the chaos Lizzie describes?
Because Lizzie underestimates the will of the Venezuelan people for freedom. They've been crushed under the boot of this socialist dictator for years. This isn't creating a vacuum, it's clearing a path. It's an opportunity for the internationally recognized interim government and leaders like Juan Guaido to step in and restore order.
A government that has little to no actual power within the country's military or institutions.
They will now. With the head of the snake cut off, the body will fall apart. The military, who were only loyal out of fear or corruption, will now have a choice. This action is a catalyst for liberation. It tells the people of Venezuela that they are not alone, and it sends an unmistakable message to other dictators in the region, like Ortega in Nicaragua or Diaz-Canel in Cuba, that their days are numbered. This is a pro-democracy, pro-stability move in the long run.
This sounds exactly like the logic used to justify the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Remove the dictator and democracy will flourish. We saw how that turned out. It created a power vacuum that was filled by insurgents and extremist groups, destabilizing an entire region for decades. We are risking a repeat of that catastrophic miscalculation, based on wishful thinking rather than a sober assessment of the facts on the ground.
It's not the same at all. This was a targeted strike against a criminal leader, not a full-scale invasion and occupation. It's surgical. It's about removing a cancer, not killing the patient.
We're almost out of time. I'd like to end with a final thought from each of you on the ultimate legacy of this event. What will we be saying about the capture of Nicolás Maduro 10 years from now? Johnny?
10 years from now, we will look back at this as the moment the tide turned in Latin America. It will be seen as a courageous act that led to a free and prosperous Venezuela, a weakened Cuban regime, and a hemisphere less threatened by narco-terrorism and socialism. It will be a testament to the idea that sometimes decisive American leadership is necessary to bend the arc of history toward justice.
And Lizzie, your final thought?
I fear that in 10 years, we will see this as a reckless gamble that backfired spectacularly. We'll see it as the event that shattered the post-World War II consensus on national sovereignty, sparking a new era of international lawlessness. It may be viewed as the catalyst that plunged Venezuela into a protracted conflict, triggered a massive refugee crisis, and ironically, entrenched anti-American powers like Russia and China more deeply in our own hemisphere. It's a textbook case of winning the battle but losing the war.
Two starkly different visions of the future, a powerful reminder of how much is at stake. Johnny Conservative, Lizzie Liberal, thank you both once again for an illuminating and challenging debate.
Thank you, Mike.
Anytime.
I'm Mike Middle, and this has been Middle Ground. Join us next time as we continue to explore the gray areas in a world too often seen in black and white.